Let me ask you something. Do you want a new pet? Do you want a collection that will really stand out? Regardless of your answer, you found the perfect place because it's time to talk about insect collecting. Welcome back, everyone. My name's Hobbyman Pete, and this is Hobby News, the channel where we give you all the quick info you would need to pick up a new hobby. And as mentioned, tonight's top story is about insect collecting. As always, when talking about this, we're going to be going over our 3 key points, those being how to get started, your budget, and the potential for growth. So let's grab your jars and let's go find some bugs. Now, the first thing when it comes to insect collecting is identifying which of the 2 kinds of insect collecting you're going to want to do. The first kind is where you keep preserved dead bodies of insects in these glass cases for observing and studying. Or there's the second kind, which is when you keep insects alive to also, again, you can study and observe them, and you can also just watch how they eat, live, and breed. There are examples of this where, if you're keeping them in glass cases, you have things like butterflies or beetles. And then there's options where if you're keeping them alive, like ant farms and butterfly gardens. Now, both of these options can be started in various ways. Either you are going to look into just purchasing all the bugs, online or in stores, or you're going to want to go out and actually find and collect the bugs yourselves out in the wild. To do this, you're going to want to make sure you bring some tools, and most importantly, you're going to want to bring your jar so you can store them. Just make sure to poke a few holes so they can breathe. Now that we've approached the topic of the budget, this is where things are going to get interesting. Again, we're going to be looking at the 2 different kinds of insect collecting and how the budget plays a role in each of them. The first one of which is where you're going to be keeping the preserved dead bugs in glass cases. You're going to want to, my recommendation, I should say, is to start by just buying a sample on, say, Amazon for about 5 or 6 bugs, and it's going to run you about $20 to $30. That way, once you buy them, you'll be able to observe them and decide at that point whether or not this is something that you're going to want to continue and enhance, or if this is just not the hobby for you. If, however, you do decide that you do enjoy this collection hobby, then the next steps you're going to want to take are either looking into buying more of those types of preserved bugs already, or you may look into wanting to create those preservations yourself. For that, I would recommend looking into other channels, into the steps and processes. Now, when it comes to talking about that second option, which is where you're keeping the insects or bugs in general alive, this is where you're going to want to look into just buying different protection cases. And, you don't want to keep them in the jars forever. So eventually you're going to want to get plastic containers that have different breathing holes where you can put different environments that the bugs will thrive in, be it sand, dirt, different leaves and vegetation for them to eat and thrive. That's what you're going to be really looking to spend your budget in. And the good news is on Amazon, you can get a decently sized plastic container with a vent hole lid on top for about $20 to $30 again. Now, again, both of the options that I've mentioned in terms of insect collecting can be started with either buying the insects online or in stores directly, or you can go out and search for them in the wild. And to do that, again, like I said, you're going to need tools and jars, but these jars can be found pretty much about anywhere. All you have to really do is go to a grocery store, and if you get yourself, a jar of pasta sauce, you'll be able to just use that, and then you got an empty jar that you can clean out and use for insect collecting. Lastly, when talking about the budget, the one thing that I want to reiterate is that the budget can definitely increase with this hobby as you go along. But when starting out, I would really just say you should buy examples of the collection to see if it's something that you will want to invest in. And now we've approached our last topic, which is going to be the potential for growth. And like many other collection style hobbies, you're a bit more limited in your options of expanding this out. The real options here are going to be usually just keeping this hobby for yourself for the aesthetic choice of it, or for personal studying if you want to observe them. Or you can look into enhancing it by enlarging your collection or getting very specific and rare insects to add. Examples of how to do this are perhaps going to very rare, unique auctions where you could find very majestic looking insects that can't be found really anywhere else in the world. Or you can look into making a profit from this hobby by building out a collection of insects, selling them for a profit, and then being able to restart from zero so you can continue this hobby as long as you want to go with it. Otherwise, as I mentioned, this hobby can also really just help you stand out in a crowd. Unless you're at a bug convention. Then you may want to hide. And that's all we have for today here at Hobby News. We hope you're able to learn something new, and just maybe, you're ready to collect your own critters. Be sure to subscribe to see what hobby we cover next. And when it comes to hobbies, write down in the comments, what do you do?